Welcome back to part 2 of How Old Are Ninjago Characters. In the last video, part 1, we covered all of the main ninja and the characters from seasons 1 to 4. In this video, we'll be covering the characters from seasons 5 to 11. I'm Daily Rollard, and today I'm estimating the ages of important Ninjago characters. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So yeah, this is the second part of 2 parts, so if you've not yet watched part 1, go down to the description and click on that link to watch it. But yeah, just to review some of the stuff that I said in part 1, first of all, these are estimations, not confirmations. These are my educated guesses based on facts and logic from the show, not actual confirmations as to how old the characters are. Secondly, these are my estimations. They are not your estimations, they are not estimations from the creators, so you may not necessarily agree with all of these, and yeah, I mean, chances are you'll probably disagree with a good amount of them. So we'll start off with Morro, the main villain of season 5, and since Morro is a ghost, I mean, he kind of does have a biological age and a chronological age, so we'll talk about those. And first of all, 15 is not the chronological age, 15 would be his biological age at the time of death. During the flashback from Ghost Story, Morro is probably a few years younger. I mean, he still had the little legs at that point, but when he died, his skeleton actually has bigger legs, so I'd say that he's probably 15 at minimum, making him around 12 or 13 when he left Wu. For his chronological age, I mean, Morro was probably trained sometime before the war began, when Wu still had free time, and he wasn't going off to fight, so add 40 to 15, bam, epic math skills, and you have 55 years old during the events of possession. I had just said that these estimations were mine and not the creators, but here's the one exception to that. On Twitter at some point, Tommy Andresen had said that he envisioned Ronin to be around 30, and to be honest, I agree with this. He's got a few wrinkles, but at the same time he's very active. I mean, he's very easily able to fight, and then again, his voice also doesn't sound too older sounding, so I'd say 35 would be a reasonable estimate for him. Alright, so for Yang we have another chronological and biological case, and I put 100 as his chronological age, and I chose to display this one as the main one because unlike Morro, he never really died, he just became a ghost. I mean, he was still in Ninjago and such. Anyways, though, it is hard to pinpoint where Yang fits in the timeline. He could have become a ghost during the Serpentine War, or perhaps millennia ago, but I would say a century would be the minimum. Here's why. In Season 5, Yang is basically a legend. People don't know what happened to him or his students and if he really exists. The art of Air-Jitsu has been lost to the ages, but at the same time, his temple is also a tourist location, so it must have been around for some time. In my opinion, 40 years isn't exactly long enough for something to be lost to the ages. 100 years would make more sense, as the generation that knew Yang would have died long ago. For his biological age when he became a ghost, 40 or 50 would be my guess. Moving on to Nadakhan, we know he's been in the teapot for 2 centuries or so, because that is also when Soto died. So he's at least 200 years old, but it also seems that Jin lived longer, and that's because his father Kanjakan has definitely been alive longer than 2 centuries and was not trapped in the teapot. Alternatively, time could be slower in Ninjago, so I'm gonna go with the first one because I don't want to get into realm logic. So then add at least another 100 years for Nadakhan's childhood, and you have 300 at minimum. Biologically, I'd say he's probably in his 40s or 50s. Biologically, Flintlocke is in his early 40s. He is a higher ranking sky pirate and also seems to have a good amount of experience. But chronologically, I'd say around 230. Reason being is that he was trapped in a realm for 2 centuries. But the reason he's still alive is because time is slower in that realm, meaning his biological age probably didn't change much. I say 230 instead of 240 because I think he aged around 10 years while imprisoned. In Season 6, Nelson is probably anywhere from 11 to 13, and that is because he did have short legs at that point and his voice was also much younger sounding. But in Season 11, first of all, he actually has a job, and also I'm pretty sure his legs are bigger, I can't remember though. But even anyways, his voice has deepened a lot, meaning he's probably gone through puberty, so I'd say 13 to 15 would be his present age. The police commissioner would be 55 or in his late 50s. I mean, first of all, he has gray hair, and his voice is also older sounding too, but he also has a lot of experience, meaning he's probably been a police for some time, so I'd say probably 55. Echo Zane is anywhere from 7 to 10, assuming that Dr. Julian was jailed a decade before the series began. I doubt Dr. Julian would have waited too long to make a replacement Zane, so my guess again would be 7 to 10. Acronix is pretty easy to say. I mean, he was probably in his 20s during the war, and would also be the same in Season 7 due to his time travel. The season emphasizes his youth several times, which is also represented well by his voice acting, so yeah, 20 for Acronix. And Krux would definitely be 40 years older than Acronix, which would make him 60, and I think this makes sense due to his gray hair and his older sounding voice, as well as his distaste for technology. Rei and Maya are another prime example of how messed up Ninjago's timeline is. During the war, they seem to be around 30 or so. They definitely look older than the Hands of Time were and even have a few wrinkles. Rei also has a younger design which was featured in Season 6, showing that he has aged since then. But then they'd be 70 in the present day, which can't be right considering their designs haven't changed at all, and they certainly don't sound that old either. In Season 7, they look to be in their late 50s or early 60s, so I'd have to go with 60. This would make them 20 during the war. Another weird thing is how, in Season 6, young Rei mentions pirate activity, which seems to refer to Nadakhan, but we can automatically rule this out up because Nadakhan and Soda were defeated centuries ago, and Rei definitely isn't 200 years old. Harumi is probably a teenager, and I'd say around 16 because that would match her up with Lloyd, and at the same time also judging by her voice, I think that would be reasonable. I'd guess she was 10 to 12 when her parents died, judging by her voice and behaviors, and also her legs were short, but that means at least 4 years have passed in Season 1, which could make sense since the rebooted time skip could have been a few years. Ultraviolet and Killow are probably in their 20s, maybe around 25. Their voices definitely aren't too older sounding, and also they have tattoos, they're into going to the club, so yeah. The Emperor and the Empress look around 50, I mean the Emperor's got a few wrinkles, gray hair, but also they were probably too old to have any kids, which is why they adopted Harumi. Hutchins is anywhere from 40 to 50. He does have a gray beard, but his hair is still black, and also he does have a lot of experience. His eye was probably taken out by an enemy at some point, and he has served the royal family for the better part of his life, so I'd say he's anywhere in his 40s or 50s. Mystaké is ancient, I mean she's witnessed the creation of Ninjago, she's older than the Overlord himself, and she is an Oni too, which is why she has lived so long. I would say that 4,000 would probably be the minimum for Mystaké, meaning she could be older than that. Iron Baron looks to be 50. He has a good amount of battle injuries caused by Firstbourne, and he's also been looking for her his entire life. I would assume that it had probably been a few decades since Firstbourne injured him, leading him to become obsessed with hunting her in the years that followed. His voice also isn't exactly young sounding. Faith is in her 30s. Whereas Baron didn't fight too often, Faith is still very active. She even tightrope walks on a chain attached to a moving dragon. Aside from that, both their design and voice also don't seem to be too old. Firstbourne, along with the Omega, is probably the oldest character in the show. She's the mother of all dragons and perhaps even the first dragon. With this title, I'd guess that she probably came into existence shortly after the realm's creation. So this is really a question of when the first realm was created. 5,000 years would be the minimum in my opinion, so Firstbourne would also be at least 5 millennia. And the same goes for the Omega. He's the oldest villain in the show and likely the same age too. However, Omega is a lot more debatable. Due to the lack of backstory, we don't even know if he's the original Oni leader or if he took the title from someone else. I wouldn't expect anything too crazy though, so I'd guess that he's the original leader. Aspheera is also another fairly easy one, and let me explain why the age is so specific. We know she was in the pyramid for 1,000 years, so that's a start. During the flashback episode, I guess she was a young adult. Her voice was definitely young sounding, and she was also training to be a sorceress, meaning she probably wasn't too old. So I'd guess 18. Add those two numbers together and you get 1,018. I'll say 45 for clutch powers. He's definitely a bit older because he's not too active and he's kinda lazy, but at the same time his voice doesn't sound old and he doesn't have wrinkles either. His hair is still black as well. Vex is 50 to 60. As an ice samurai, he's got a good amount of wrinkles and definitely looks older. As a human though, he doesn't have any wrinkles and has black facial hair. I'd guess he was 20 to 30 during corruption. After 3 decades of Zane's rule, then he'd be 50 to 60. I counted Akita and Kataru both as 18 because I'm pretty sure they're twins, but I'm not entirely sure. If they're not, then Akita would be 18 biologically and Kataru would be 20. Anyways, Tommy confirmed on Twitter that foreignlings age differently. This would explain why the siblings have witnessed the Ice Emperor's decades-long rule but are still in their teens. Their voices are pretty young sounding, so I really wouldn't say they're older than 18 biologically. This would also make Akita more plausible if you're into shipping. Chronologically, they're likely around 30 or 40. And let's end with the first Spinjitzu master himself. I'll go with anywhere between 3 and 4,000, meaning that Ninjago is probably around that age too. These numbers can be shifted to fit the first realm's creation too. Basically though, I'd say he's a few millennia younger than the Omega and Firstbourne and probably closer to Mystaké's age. He likely spent a few hundred years in the realm before leaving to create Ninjago. Then he spent another few millennia there and died, and I'd guess that he probably had Wu and Garmadon during his last millennium. And there you have it, those are my estimations of the ages of all of the important Ninjago characters. So before we leave, I want to give a huge thanks for all the people who have supported this little 2-part series. Part 1 surpassed 10,000 views, and because of the support from that video, the channel has been growing better than ever in this last week. So thank you so much, and please let me know what you guys want to see in the near future from the channel. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone ever you know, and let me know what you guys thought of my estimations, as well as please leave your own estimations down below. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.